my first part of the GLP. Um, Something about my culture. I was raised initially in California. My parents were divorced super early into my young life, so I don't actually know when it was, first couple of years. But so I stayed back and forth between the two houses, but mostly with my dad because my school was closer to his house. But my dad met my current stepmom when I was around 3.5 or so. But so I went back and forth, like I said, but um, my mom ended up getting a little bit more distant, and I ended up not seeing her as much. Found out later she was getting involved in some bad things, and she ended up going to jail. So I didn't see my mom from around 6 to 12 in terms of age. So I didn't get too many positive influences culturally wise from her. But so I ended up moving to Austin right before I turned 7, Austin, Texas, and so I stayed with my father and my stepmom, and they taught me most of everything that I know now in terms of culture, being um, kind to people, all that, blah, blah, blah. But they were pretty strict, I would say. Um, I was always a pretty careful kid because of that, because I had, like a bedtime, 8 p.m. bedtime, and only 1 hour of electronics per day, that kind of thing. Um, so I had a pretty strict upbringing. But on the other side of things, I was very involved in band in high school, middle school, high school, and I think that taught me a ton, cultural wise. Taught me about determination, perseverance, that kind of stuff. Made me more outgoing of a person. It made me more friendly. Taught me how to be a leader. So many things. Just to list a few. But I mean, when you're on the field at 7 a.m. every single morning with 270 other people, it's impossible not to create a bond with everybody, right? So I had a great time, formed a ton of friendships. We spent countless hours rehearsing, practicing, um, competing, staying on buses, playing at football games, all that kind of stuff. It's impossible not to be affected by it, and it really melded me into the person I am today. Like being in charge of conducting the ensemble and leading the group, it forces you to be responsible, outspoken, that kind of stuff. You have to be the mediator between the directors and students sometimes. So you learn to kind of play both sides. It had an incredible influence on my way of life. Next part, I'll be interviewing Juliana. She is an international student from Brazil who I met through my music theory class. She's majoring in business and minoring in music, so that's why she's there. I only recently met her, so I feel like that could potentially take me out of my comfort zone. I don't imagine it'll be a problem, but never know. So for my first interaction, I'm thinking about, we can just talk about our educational upbringings, personal educational upbringings, to kind of see how we've gone from each step to step and eventually ultimately arrived here together. I think that'll be pretty interesting to kind of compare and contrast the way that we've eventually ended up here. And then for my second, I would like to either take her to a band rehearsal or a quartet rehearsal of mine. And I think that would be pretty interesting because she's a vocalist and I am an instrumentalist, so I think it would be cool for her to see that kind of side of things, and I'm looking forward to how she enjoys that, and looking forward to learning about her culture and kind of comparing it to mine, seeing what I can how I can utilize that information to be more informed about the future.